Hello, so today I'm going to show you how to make these absolutely adorable mini pumpkins. As you can see, they're relatively small and they're great for just fun little decor or fun little gifts at Halloween time. So let's get started. So to make these pumpkins, you're going to need two different colored yarns, orange and then some kind of a brown or a green, whatever you want to use for the stem of your pumpkin. I am using an H hook with my 4-weight yarn. You'll need a pair of scissors and a tapestry needle just to do in a little bit of weaving on the bottom and on the stem of our pumpkin. So to get started, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to chain 11. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now, starting in the second chain from the hook, so we're going to skip this first loop here and we're going to go down to this one. We are going to do single crochets all the way back. So you're going to insert your hook through the stitch, through the chain. You're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, so then you have 2 loops on your hook like this. You're going to yarn over and then pull through both of those. And we're going to do that all the way down to give us 10 single crochets. And don't worry if it curls up a little bit like that. It'll flatten itself back out as you keep going. Alrighty. So then once you get to the end of that first row, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work to go back the other way. Now if you look at the top of these stitches, you can see that at the top of stitches we have loops on either side. So this is the back loop and this is the front loop. Typically you would use both of these loops when you are crocheting back across, but for this particular pattern we are only going to work in these back loops. We're not going to do the front loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert our hook like this and just take that back loop and we're going to do single crochets going across. This will give us a fun little ridged pattern and it'll allow our pumpkin to have this pointy, like this ridged look going all the way around it, and it kind of gives it just more texture and more pumpkin-like feel. Now we are going to keep doing this back and forth until we have 22 rows of this. Now I know it sounds like a lot, but we're only doing 10 stitches across, so it really doesn't take that long to do. But remember, when you guys get to the end of a row like this, to always chain 1, turn your work, and stay only in that back loop for all 22 rows. And I will catch up with you guys when I'm on my row number 22. So I will be back in a few. Go ahead and pause the video so that you guys can get your 22 rows done, and we'll meet back here in just a few. All right, so I am just finishing up row 22 right now, and you should have this really cool like ribbed edge going on here across your work. So it's going to look kind of ripply like this, and that's exactly what we want to see. So now we're going to seam up the sides, and to do that we are again going to just use the back loop like we've been doing, and we are going to slip stitch it with the corresponding chain from the beginning chain that we did. Just like that. And then we're going to do that all the way down. And then this will give us a nice clean edge. So it's not super obvious where our seam is. Alrighty, so now you kind of have this little circle here. So from here, we are going to cut our tail, but you want to leave a few inches because we're going to use it to seam close and cinch close the bottom of our pumpkin. So I usually leave like, I don't know, 8 to 10 inches, something like that. I'd rather have too much and cut it off than to not have enough and not be able to close it correctly. So I'm going to do a chain 1 to secure a knot right here, so I don't have to worry about that part coming undone. And then I'm going to grab my needle. Oop, that didn't work so well. Let's try again. The end of my yarn is a touch frayed. That's okay. There we go. So now the best way that I have discovered to cinch these clothes is that at the top of each of the ridges, there's going to be this one horizontal like loop that goes this way. You see it right here? Those are the ones that we are going to loop our needles underneath. They make it the easiest for cinching these closed. Now you don't have to worry about drawing up a loop on the top of every row. This will close it just fine. You just go back and forth through the top of those ridges until we get back to the beginning. And then I always like doing it right through the top of the first one again too, just to make sure that there's no gap in the cinching here. And then simple enough, we're just going to pull it nice and closed, nice and evenly closed. Like this. So there's no hole in it. Now, if you left your tail long enough, your first tail when you did your chain, you can go ahead and put a knot there too, just to help hold everything nice and closed and securely tight together. It's not necessarily necessary, but you can do it if it helps you feel that things are going to stay together much more effectively. Just like that. So now here is the bottom of our pumpkin. Now what I do with these two tails is I just put them into the inside of the pumpkin and then just leave them in there and leave them with the filling. And this one. Let's see if I can, I don't know if my needle is going to be, nope, long enough. Let's see if I can grab it. Oh yeah, here we go. And just pull it to the inside of my pumpkin. Come on. Just like that. And then I'll leave these on the inside. You can snip them off if you choose to. That's absolutely fine too. I just leave them inside with all the filling. Okay. And then I'm going to grab the filling. And fill my pumpkin. And you can fill it as full or as squishy as you would like. I like to make mine a little bit more on the firmer side. But that's just me. All right. So I was watching another video and I learned a really cool way to do the stem, different from any way I've seen before. So I'm going to show you guys what I saw and see if you guys like it too. So we're going to grab our stem color. We're going to put a slip knot onto our hook. And we're going to start where our seam is. Now, if you're looking through your pumpkin and you can't figure out where your seam is, that must mean you did a really good job at hiding it. But I know where mine is, and mine is right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do decreased stitches going around. Now, it's not necessary to count how many stitches you do going around. You can do as few or as many as you want. Thing to keep in mind, if you do a lot of decreased stitches, like you do really small ones but close together, you're going to have a wider base to your pumpkin. And if you do less of the decreased stitches, so you have them pulling more closed, you're going to have a smaller base to your stem. So it's whichever way you would like to do it. There's no like you have to do 11, you have to do 14. It's up to you how many you want to do. So for the decrease, what we're going to do is we put our hook through the top of the seam. We're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. And then depending on how close or together you want your decreases to be, you can either use this loop here, this loop, whatever loops are easy for you to grab. Go ahead and just go through another one and get up another loop of yarn. And again, it doesn't even matter if you have big gaps like this because it'll get all pulled together and you won't be able to see those gaps anyways. We're going to yarn over again and we're going to pull it through all 3 of those loops. So that's our first decrease. So then we'll find another spot where we can get our hook through, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, or insert our hook, yarn over and pull up another loop and close. You might have to kind of squish your filling down while you're going around, but that's okay. We just keep doing these decreases till we get back to where we started this row. shoving all my filling back in again. Oop. And then I'll do one more. Alrighty. And then you can do a little slip stitch here to finish off the round. So now your pumpkin looks like this. Alrighty, and now for the next row of our stem, we are going to do another row of these decreases. So this time you're just going to use these loop tops from the decreases you made on the first row. But we're going to do it the exact same way that we just did it. So now you have a really tiny little hole for the top of your pumpkin stem, or the top of your pumpkin. So now we're going to do 2 rows of single crochets, and all this does is simply to give height to our stem. So if you want your stem to look longer than the one that I did here, this would be where you would just add a couple of more rows to make your stem taller. And I just kind of do mine as a spiral. I don't worry about like slip stitching and starting a new row. I think it gives it a more of a rustic look. And then I just kind of go until I think my stem is tall enough. And I think that's where I'm going to stop. So now the next thing that you're going to do, and it doesn't have to necessarily be the next stitch, but we are going to do slip stitch around like at least 2 of the posts of the single crochets that we just did. And what this is going to do is it's going to tighten up the top of our stem to close off the top of the stem. So I typically will skip the first one and just go right to the second one. And you're going to insert your hook around the back side of that stitch just like this. Yarn over, pull it through, and pull it through the loop on your hook. And I usually do it twice, so I'll turn it some more and then I'll pick another stitch and just do it again. And again, this is just to close up the top of the stem so there's not a hole going down to the inside of our pumpkin. Okay, from there we're going to chain 1 because we're about to cut this yarn. And again, you're going to want to leave a bit of a chain or a bit of a tail, because we are going to cinch around the bottom of the brown here to tighten up the pumpkin, and it gives it even more of the pumpkin-y shape and less of this like triangle, wide triangle look. So leave a few inches just to make sewing easier for you. And now that I've already did that chain 1 up here, I'm going to pull this through, pull the knot real tight, and I'm going to grab my needle again. And thankfully that one was able to thread a lot easier. So you're going to go down through the top of your stem, right through the middle of it, and you're going to come out through the middle of one of these decreases, one of these first row decreases we did. It doesn't matter which one. I try and come out right through the middle of it. Now this part, you don't want to pull this too tight because it's going to shrink the height of your stem, but you want to give it a little bit of a tug just so that you don't have like an extra random loop hanging out somewhere. So now what we're going to do to cinch the bottom of this pumpkin is, see this long like diagonal loop right here? Those are the loops that we are going to crochet underneath to cinch our pumpkin together. So this one, this one, and again, I do this particular loop because of the angle of it. It makes it a lot easier for cinching. And you do want to try and make sure you get all of them so that you don't have one spot that is tight and one spot that's loose. And sometimes when they're close like that, you can get two of them at the same time. Just makes it a little easier, makes the process a little easier. And then like always, I always go back through the first one again, like that. Now you want to make sure you get a nice even pull because this is where it's closing up our pumpkin. So sometimes it's easier if you turn it a little bit and then give it a little bit of a tug. See how it got a lot smaller, but it looks more natural because it actually looks like it's coming up out of the pumpkin like stems normally do, as opposed to making like a corded stem and then just plopping it on the top of it. I feel like this looks more natural. And then I just find a spot where I can make a knot and secure it so we don't have to worry about things coming apart. Make that real tight. And I prefer to do 2 knots, but that's just me. Just like that. And then I will also run my yarn back through my pumpkin and kind of like out the other side. So that way, if things do start wiggling loose, it's got this whole length of tail from here to here that it's got to pull out before it starts unraveling itself. So it gives you a chance to catch if something's going on before it kind of ruins the whole thing. And then where my little brown dot is here, just squeeze it, sucks it back inside, and it's gone. And you kind of give it a little squish around. And there you go. You have another little mini pumpkin. You can make little mini pumpkin patches. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. Be sure to give it a like. And if you enjoy my tutorials, please join us on TikTok. We are doing live tutorials every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. You can look for me at Kielea, Kielea. And I'll try and put the link in the description as well. Thank you guys and have a great day. Bye.